Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Thursday night Smackdown review. This was the go-home show on SmackDown's half of the week before Royal Rumble this Sunday. And I gotta say, for me personally, I thought that this was a better go-home show than Raw overall. I enjoyed the stuff they put out tonight. They furthered some storylines, had even like a good match or two. And the closing segment, much like Raw, just left me really pumped for possibility in regards to the Royal Rumble match this Sunday. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, I kind of feel like if you would take the body of SmackDown and combine it with the ending of Raw, you would have the perfect go-home show. Because the ending of SmackDown was basically just sort of a poor man's version of the ending on Raw. And it was good and it got the job done, but when Brock Lesnar's involved, everything becomes cooler.
Exactly. Because Brock Lesnar, he is that commodity. He is that, special attraction, as we like to say. So while I do agree with your sentiments about the ending segment, I really agree with your assessment as a whole. I felt like this SmackDown as a whole episode was quite solid, even if the ending was a watered-down version of what we got, just this past Monday. Yeah. I still think it did its job effectively. So with that said, is there anything else you want to say about the show before we get into our first segment?
The only other thing that I'll say, just to compare the show to Raw, I do think that Raw did more to progress the Divas storyline. But SmackDown didn't do poorly, it just didn't do quite as well as Raw.
I would agree with you there. So
That's about it, though. Like, if you take those two things, the finish and the Divas segment from Raw, and fill the entire rest of that show out with what we got on SmackDown tonight, you would have a really solid, 2.5 hours of content.
Certainly. I really felt like SmackDown did a good job here. And with that said, let's get right into our first segment. Heat of the night. I've got 0 heats of the night tonight. I've got 0 nitpicks. There was maybe 1 or 2 things that, kind of irritated me a little bit, but we'll get into that with the actual segments. Nothing really worth expounding upon here. So what about you, Ashton?
Yeah, as far as, nitpicks go, we already talked about the idea of the whole show revolving around Roman Reigns being an issue on Raw. So I'm not going to re-emphasize that because, even though it's still a problem, it hasn't become more of a problem than it was on Raw. The only other thing that I will say that kind of annoyed me was Bray Wyatt needs the Wyatt family to help him beat Ryback. That annoyed me.
I'm so glad you actually mentioned that because I made a note of that, as I was watching Ryback Bray Wyatt, and I put in my notes, normally that would annoy me too, because when you look at Bray Wyatt as a character, as a performer, he looks like he should be able to handle his own business, on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
I think what made me forgive this, though, is because it is the Royal Rumble, and they've kind of built up the fact that the family is going to be a cohesive unit, and you've seen how dangerous that could be because they picked up a win here because they were all on the same page. So if they're on the same page against Ryback, you add, you bring it in the grander scheme of things with the Rumble. So I think it works almost as a promotional thing because the family's going to work together and you see how legitimate they are when they do that. So
I definitely see where you're coming from. I just feel like it would have done more for the Wyatt family if Bray would have been able to take care of business on his own. And that's been a complaint that I've had about Bray specifically, literally since he debuted on the main roster. His first match on the main roster, that Ring of Fire match against Kane, revolved around how he can get help from the family. The fact that his entire main roster career, he's needed the Wyatt family in order to win matches is just stupid, in my opinion.
Oh, and I completely agree with you. There is no contention here. That's a problem that we've both shared throughout most of Bray's run. I just think I can give it a mulligan this one time because of the event we're heading towards. It's very circumstantial, I'll put it that way. Very circumstantial.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, I'm a little bit less forgiving than you are, but I definitely see where you're coming from, so we can move on.
All right, with that said, let us get right into our Thursday night SmackDown review, and we open up with SmackDown is Jericho, Chris Jericho, starting the show. It's very interesting. Because first of all, he recaps what happened on the highlight reel. Monkeys, roll the clip. And
that was funny. I laughed at that.
we see the Wyatt family laying waste to everything, this, that, and the other. And, he talks about, that's no surprise given when you have the 3 favorites in the ring to win the Royal Rumble this Sunday. Anything can happen.
I love that Y2J keeps on trying to convince everyone that he's going to win. Like, how great of a swerve would that be if Jericho managed to win the Rumble and then comes out the following night on Raw? It was just like, I told you guys.
Yeah, that would be, hilarious. And I actually have an interesting point to make about Jericho here in a second that I observed on SmackDown. You could tell me if I'm looking too much into things, but then again, that's kind of what you and I do here. But before that, the New Day comes out, cuts Jericho off at the pass before he's making any more proclamations about the Rumble. They give him a lot of grief over murdering Francesca the Trombone, which I like because he was the perpetrator. I'm glad to see this sense of continuity where they pick up where they left off. Xavier Woods said,
you, man, it's starting to feel like SmackDown's writers are picking it up.
Definitely, man, definitely.
Didn't we have some kind of a reference to continuity on last week's show, too?
I believe we did. And you know what's funny? Just a really quick aside. I was telling a friend that I was watching SmackDown tonight, and he says, bro, I despise SmackDown. I said, dude, it's gotten so much better these last, 2 or 3 weeks, from commentary to I just think the structure of the card and how they tell stories and the matches they have. So yeah. SmackDown's really, really cooking, and it's really kicking its game up. But New Day says, we can make a documentary about you making a brass murderer. But unlike that documentary, which is making a murderer, we actually have the evidence. You're stone cold guilty. You did it.
Yeah, we don't need to plant any evidence.
Exactly. And so they try and hold a moment of silence for Francesca the Trombone. Of course, Chris Jericho mocks the idea. He brings it back. He pretty much calls them jackasses and stupid for thinking that they're unicorns. And he brings it back to the Rudy Tooty.
He did have one interesting line in this. I don't remember which infamous or famous philosopher he said the quote was.
Confucius.
Right, Confucius. He said, Confucius once said, sometimes if it doesn't look like a unicorn, it might just be a jackass with a plunger stuck on its face. I love it.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Now, here is where I just wanted to get off of my chest an observation that I made. Because ultimately he does say, to New Day, you've got a 6-man tag team matchup and you're not going to be happy who your opponents are. And then we'll get into that in a second. But before that, I've noticed something here with this current run of Jericho. And again, you could tell me if you feel like I'm looking too much into things. This seems eerily similar to me to his 2012 run. I mean, obviously there are some differences, right? But here's the thing. Jericho hasn't competed yet since he's been back, a lot like 2012. The first match he's going to have back in this little run is the Royal Rumble match. And I've really taken note that he keeps calling himself the Savior. And I even put in my notes, I'm really starting to warm up to your idea, dude, about a Jericho-AJ Styles feud culminating at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I would love, and I'm just going to say this because Jericho hasn't competed yet and he competes in the Rumble and he's probably going to really impress. I would love if AJ Styles eliminates Chris Jericho and Jericho takes a huge exception to this fact because he has been saying he is the Savior, and now AJ Styles, a foreigner up until this point, granted he's made his namesake the rest of the world except WWE, is coming into what Jericho perceives to be his house. And we do a feud that way. I'm really starting to think something like that might happen because him constantly saying, I'm the Savior, but he hasn't done anything. This just seems to have some parallels to that 2012 run. I'm really thinking you're onto something, dude, and we may see a Jericho heel turn very soon. So I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Yeah, I think one thing that when you were talking about that, it kind of made me think, I wonder if he would do the old, I didn't actually get eliminated, the referee didn't see it, and kind of roll back under the ropes and continue participating even after he's been eliminated.
Right.
And just to kind of be like, maybe you get like Michael Cole or whatever other babyface commentator you have on the booth talking about, hey, Jericho got eliminated, he shouldn't be in there. And then JBL's like, oh, what are you talking about, Michael? The referee didn't see it, it means it didn't count. And just to really kind of play that up and, right there, you already kind of have an alignment switch because you have the babyface commentator pointing out something wrong that he did and the heel commentator, justifying it.
Exactly. I love that line of thinking. I just really observing Jericho and thinking back to what he's been doing since his return. I mean, yes, he's done babyface things, so I'm not saying there are many hints. But if you look at his language and you look at his inactivity, he says he's going to save everybody, but he hasn't done anything yet. It just feels weird to me. It feels a lot like, again, in certain ways, the 2012 run. And I'm thinking, we may be getting heel Jericho. And if he's going to feud with AJ Styles, I think that's a perfect feud for AJ to start because it's not the biggest fish in the pond, so to speak, but it's legitimate enough where AJ could really stake his claim like, I'm here in the WWE. So I'm really hoping they actually go that route, and if they don't, I'm blaming you, Ashton, because you put the thought in my head. So with that
the
said...
crazy thing about that is that I actually suggested that in, sort of a depressed manner. Like, I would be annoyed if they went that direction, because it's like, it feels like the go-to, like, oh, we have this indie guy, put him against Jericho. Like, I would rather see AJ Styles go against somebody more, I don't know, contemporary than Jericho.
I mean, your big thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, you seem really sold on AJ Styles Del Rio for WrestleMania for the U.S. title.
No, you know what? I'm not necessarily locked into that. I would, if I was given the choice between Styles and Nakamura facing Del Rio for the title, it would be Nakamura, because you could play up their MMA backgrounds.
Right, and I know you have said that, I think on a past TWitWoW, so yeah.
I think that if we're not going to get Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens for the IC title, assuming Owens wins it, I would love to see AJ Owens. That would
be
be
man.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about, though. Like, if you're going to bring in AJ Styles, don't feed the 38-year-old rookie to the 44-year-old,
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I do think, though, to be fair, like, I completely understand your sentiments. I do think, though, especially given the conversation that we've had, they would have an opportunity to at least tell an interesting story, but I do agree with you. Given those two options, obviously I'm going to go Kevin Owens working with a guy like AJ Styles, because I just want to see Kevin Owens keep climbing up the card. So, I just wanted to get my thoughts out there, kind of do a little back and forth with you about that. With that said, is there anything else you want to say about this opening segment?
No, we can move on. The one thing I will say, again, Jericho trying to drum up this Rudy Tooty Booty shit is really annoying.
Yeah, I know.
And the fact that the crowd is buying into it is kind of gross, too.
Hey, but you know what? Like, even though I agree with you and I hated it, if the crowd's buying into it, then Jericho's hitting the mark like he's supposed to as a babyface for now.
I disagree. I disagree. This is like the feed me more and the yes chance and stuff. Like, to me, this is, and even if you want to just talk about people chanting dumb shit, Goldberg chants at Ryback, or that kind of thing. It's not, or what chants? It's not them really buying into Chris Jericho as a babyface. It's them having an opportunity to chant something and just grabbing it, because that's what crowds want to do now.
I guess that could be. But regardless, let's move on to our opening contest. 6-man tag team action. The Usos and Dolph Ziggler, who's an honorary Uso, he's rocking the face paint tonight, against the New Day. And really, I thought this was a really fun match to me. And, I know it's kind of beating a dead horse here, and people may be sick and tired of me saying it, but goddamn are the New Day great. Like, I really noticed, I don't know how I really haven't observed this before, but I really took stock in this particular matchup. What I love about the New Day is, and I've said this in the past, but normally I've meant in-ring psychology when I've said this. Anybody can do moves. The great performer makes moves mean something. And it's not so much psychology in the case of the New Day. It's just they infuse their moves with personality.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that so much, because you got, like, the unicorn stampede, as apparently JBL calls it. And honestly, it's not one of his worst contributions. I'll run with it. And then they're gyrating, and they're dancing when they're in control. And you've got Kofi talking smack.
And I'll also say, like, as entertaining and over the top and cartoonish as they are, they bring legitimately good tag team psychology to the matches too.
Yes, dude.
With the frequent tags and isolating people and cutting the ring in half, they bring all of that stuff, plus they're literally cartoon characters.
It's just amazing, dude, that they're great personalities, but within the confines of their division, being the tag team division, they're also a legitimately great tag team.
Yeah.
I can't praise the New Day enough. They really haven't made a misstep to me in some time. They just
I know it's probably not going to happen based on just sort of the timing of things, but I think that my new dream feud is New Day versus Jordan and Gable.
Yes, that'd be so good. That'd be so good. I mean, yeah, New Day, Jordan and Gable, and then New Day, Enzo and Cass. I mean, because just the mic work on that would be insane.
Well,
but
and even if you want to say New Day versus Blurfexa.
Yes, that'd be amazing too.
Can we just get like an entire set of NXT tapings where on every one of the 4 episodes that they tape at a time, we get a new Day match against a current NXT team?
I would not raise any qualms about that whatsoever. If anybody would raise qualms about that, you're wrong. Just plain and simple. I'm not
right? Yeah, we get New Day versus Jordan and Gable, New Day versus Perfexa, New Day versus Enzo and Cass, and then just to put the exclamation mark on it, we could do New Day versus the Mechanics.
Yes, but
if you want to keep it so that they're not competing for the titles, New Day versus Vaudevillains.
Yeah, I could get into that. I mean, especially if the Vaudevillains step up their game soon, but, with freaking vaudeville and that whole vibe, that could be some great interplay. But listen, I could spend an entire commentary praising the New Day. That's how brilliant these guys are. But back to the match itself. I mean, the babyfaces do regain control ultimately. There comes a point where the match just breaks down and becomes utter chaos. There was one really sick spot. I actually got concerned from a little bit where Dolph gets vaulted over the rope and it seems like his face and his head just hits the steel steps hard.
Yeah.
And I even cringed a little bit. I'm like, ooh.
He's been doing that spot a lot more lately, actually.
I'm a little concerned.
Because that's like the second or third time we've seen him do that in the last couple months.
And it's funny because I really haven't taken stock of it up until this point, so I'm glad you have. Because, I saw that, dude, and I immediately, my body tensed up.
Yeah.
Given everything. I
don't remember who it was, but we saw somebody do that on NXT a week or two ago, too.
Did we? I'm
pretty sure it might have even been at the post-London special, but I don't remember who it was.
Regardless, Dolph does, recuperate and everything in time for the finish, which is a triple super
kick. You know what? It
kick.
might have been Zack Ryder.
Was it?
During the four-way tag match, it might have been, yeah.
Yeah, it could have been, but Dolph does recover in time for the finish, triple super kick, and they get the pin. I believe Kofi ate the pin here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he did. And it's funny, too, now that I think about it, because Ryder and Ziggler are best buds.
Yeah, that is true. So maybe
they talk about their bumps in the back, like, hey man, I came up with this sick face bump.
And then, Dolph's just like, well, anything you could do, I could do 10 times better.
Yeah, exactly. So Zack Ryder's just like, bro, I'm gonna get the entire front row to have tight buttholes. And then Ziggler's just like, front row. I'm aiming for the nosebleeds, man.
Exactly. So, teeter-totter booking here with the Usos getting the pin, kind of evening things up after the New Day got the better of them on Monday. But to me, even the fact that they lost, New Day ran away with the show here. They ran away with this match.
Yeah.
I just love everything that these guys are about. And this isn't even, and guys, understand, this isn't even to go hand in hand with me trying to denigrate the Usos or Dolph Ziggler. It's just, to me, quite sincerely, the New Day are on another level. They're just in a completely different league from the rest of the division.
Yeah, we've been watching Ruby lately, and what I love about the first season that they sadly didn't really continue to do with the second season is the background characters that don't have any kind of importance to the story yet are just black silhouettes. This match was basically the New Day versus 3 black silhouettes, and even though the silhouettes won, the New Day were the reason that we watched the match.
Exactly. So with that said, is there anything else you want to say about this match?
Nope.
All right, we get our Royal Rumble stats video again, but I already covered my grievances about that.
So much Raw recap.
Exactly, so much Raw recap. But getting back on the SmackDown side of things, Becky Lynch versus Alicia Fox, I really felt like this match got a lot of mileage out of itself for the time given. I especially like the aggression from Alicia Fox. She did a Northern Lights suplex on the outside, and I forgave the bridge because I just assumed it was her showing off her athleticism. Like,
right.
Oh, look
I mean,
at me.
And plus, what's the point of doing a bridge when you can't get a 3 count? You're on the outside.
Exactly. And commentary made a note of that. Mauro Ranallo, being the wonderful, magnificent man that he is, made note of that. But yeah, a good back and forth matchup. And again, we see with the finish, because it seemed like Alicia Fox was going for a type of slam or something, but Becky catches the arm and turns it around into the disarmor.
I'm telling you, man, I'll come up with whether I think Becky or Charlotte is going to win on our preview predictions on Saturday. But if I do predict Becky to win, I'll tell you right now how I think it'll happen. Charlotte will be setting up for the figure 8, and Becky will somehow manage to grab her arm and turn it into a disarmor.
I love that they've really made this a catch finisher, and I even put in my notes, because that, not to say that she wasn't already, but having a catch finisher of that style and just of that kind of viciousness, because you're talking like really bending that arm back, really makes Becky seem like a legitimate and credible competitor and contender, especially in regards to Sunday. And the only other note I really have about this match, I really enjoyed personally Ric Flair on commentary. I even put here, he promotes Charlotte better than Charlotte promotes herself, in my opinion.
He does.
Because I love that he had the line, you know, all these women in this division are great, but none of them are champions. Only Charlotte's the champion. You know, she's been a champion since she was 5 years old. Like, the way he talks her up, I think is great. And I would rather he talk up Charlotte than Charlotte try speaking for herself. I mean, she's had some creative concepts. Like, I do like Genetically Superior, but I feel like it's been forever since we've even heard that.
Well, that was her NXT gimmick, though. She hasn't used that on the main roster. Which
I think is a shame, because I think I would like her, or at least be able to tolerate her more if it was the Genetically Superior gimmick on the main roster. And I'm just being serious. Like,
it's so funny, too, because I feel like Becky Lynch has referenced Charlotte referring to herself as genetically superior more frequently on the main roster than Charlotte has actually referred to herself as genetically superior on the main roster.
I believe you're right, dude. That's crazy to think about.
Because I've counted at least twice now in promos that Becky Lynch has brought up Charlotte calling herself genetically superior, but I don't think Charlotte's ever actually said that on the main roster.
No, not yet, which, you know, any day now, you know, I would like her to go back to those roots, because, this is just insufferable how she is now to me. But
you know what, though? My thing is, if you're going to pay Ric Flair to be on Raw, let him be her mouthpiece. Don't just keep the microphone out of Charlotte's hands. Make her the Brock Lesnar of the Divas division. She doesn't speak for herself. She has somebody that does that for her. And in this case, it happens to be her father.
Exactly. You know, which is perfectly fine given her heel gimmick being, getting her on the backs of nepotism and this and that. Like, really just shove it in their face. Like, I even have my own father speaking for me. Who's your dad? Not Ric Flair. Woo! So, you could just do all that.
I mean, in order to say all that stuff, she would need to speak, which kind of goes exactly against what I'm suggesting here.
Right. But, I enjoyed this, and commentary, again, particularly Ric Flair, really enhanced the match for me. So, and by the way, I didn't put this in my notes, but I do remember the little gesture that Becky made, like, after her win, looking at Charlotte and making the breaking motion, I thought was great.
Dude, great. Becky is so good. And they even showed a different angle of the little argument that she had with Charlotte and Rick from Monday, where we actually got to see her reaction to Rick accepting the challenge. And the way that she did, like, the full lap around the ring was just amazing.
She is the most adorable person on the planet. Like,
I guarantee you there are about 100 million people right now that would challenge you with Bayley.
Well, you know what? They're wrong. Suck an egg and take a back seat. But I mean, even for as much of a scumbag as I am, and believe me, there was a segment on tonight's show that made me go full-blown scumbag, and I loved every second of it. Becky Lynch actually makes me aspire to be a better person. So anybody that can have that effect, it really says something.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, Becky, good on you. But, Ashton, is there anything else you want to say about this match?
No, let's talk about MizTV.
Oh, let's talk about MizTV.
This was the best WWE-produced segment that I have seen since, oh my God, probably since the Roman attack on Vince.
Dude, I am so glad you said that, man. Like, I wanted you to really carry the segment because I feel like I've been talking a lot. Like, what did you really think about this segment? What were your, highlights and stuff like that? I mean, what did you think so far?
Dean Ambrose being allowed to be Dean Ambrose. Like, that was, I felt like for the 30 seconds that he was talking, I felt like we were back in, not necessarily CZW, but at least back in FCW, where he was allowed to be a lot more like himself. And, I should have taken this promo and thrown it into my Dean Ambrose promo compilation that's on my channel. That's the kind of promo we just saw.
In regards to Dean Ambrose, since you brought him up, I mean, I have in my notes here, his passion for possibility in terms of violence really made the promo come alive for me.
Yeah.
You know what this promo did right, or what this segment did right, excuse me, and I mean this with all sincerity, I'm not trying to be a smartass, they kept Miz in the background. He was just another set piece for this whole thing up until the end, and the end was even better, but we'll get to that.
Was that the part that made you go crazy, or?
No, we'll get to that, because like I said, scumbag. Anybody who likes seeing Miz get hurt isn't a scumbag. They're a decent human being because they have sense.
Oh, you know what? I know exactly what it is. It involves Renee Young, doesn't it?
It does.
I knew that. Oh. Okay,
But-
so anyways, back to Dean Ambrose.
yes.
So,
yes.
we get this whole thing with Miz trying to cut him off, and when my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut, and that kind of stuff. Ambrose gets all up in his face, and Miz is just like, do you think you could do what I'm doing better than me? And he's just like, yeah, I probably could, and asks the crowd, do you think he can? And then the crowd cheers, so he just gives Ambrose the mic and sits down. And Ambrose cuts this amazing promo about how the last man standing match is a little bit like an amusement park. Because, we've got all these different rides, like living on the edge. And he starts talking about how Owens likes to use the edge of the apron to shorten people's careers and how he's going to break Owens in half on this edge. And then he goes over to the steel steps and he's like, I see Kevin Owens. He looks kind of like a bear, kind of like a fuzzy bear. He's a mean bear, but he's kind of like a fuzzy bear. So I like to call this one the bear trap. And he talks about how it was to get Owens' hand caught between the steps and the ring. And then he's got him stuck there, so he can do whatever he wants. He can smash his face into the stairs. He can hit him with chairs or kendo sticks, anything he wants. And then he comes over to the announce table and he says, this one I like to call memory lane because Owens put me through this table. And even though it wasn't the last time I'm going to get put through a table, I still have, I have to get a little payback for what he did. And, as he's finishing up, that's when Owens comes out. But before we even get to that, I just love the way that Dean Ambrose takes these simple little concepts like I'm going to use the edge of the apron and then I'm going to, catch your hand between the steps in the ring and hit you with a bunch of stuff and then I'm going to put you through the table. And he turns it into a freaking amusement park. Like the creativity that this man has is next level as far as I'm concerned.
Dude, just keeping it on Dean Ambrose, because there's so much I want to say about this, but I freaking loved this segment.
It was
again, the way I articulated it, Dean Ambrose's passion for possibility. Like, you can see when he's talking about the ways that he can hurt Kevin Owens, he comes alive. And I love the word, like the creativity, the imagery. Dean Ambrose, more than anybody, when you give him the time and you give him the platform, can really paint a picture about what a feud means to him, what a certain title or aspiration means to him, the violence he's going to inflict. He's just that kind of character. Such a great freaking babyface. And I feel like this Intercontinental Championship run has really reminded us what a great babyface he is.
And dude, the crazy thing to me is this segment alone, if this segment would have been on Raw, it would have sold pay-per-views. Because this segment is the kind of segment that makes people want to buy this match.
Yes, I mean, I'm telling you right now, and I don't think this is really spoiling anything for Saturday, this is my most anticipated match on the card.
Yeah, I mean, I already said that on Raw. On our when we were closing out and you asked me what question I wanted to ask our viewers, and I said, which match are you looking most forward to? This was it for me, and that if anything, that's been reinforced after tonight.
Oh my God, yeah, it's been that way for me too, so I'm right there with you. And then this, my God, and then Kevin Owens comes out.
Owens, yes. Oh my God. Like, as if Ambrose just losing his mind and comparing the different ways that he's going to hurt Kevin Owens to an amusement park wasn't enough. Kevin Owens comes out and he says, listen, man, you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. All I care about is that Intercontinental Championship. He said, Ambrose, you're insane, but I am obsessed with getting that Intercontinental Championship back. So for Ambrose, it's more personal for Ambrose. It's more about getting his revenge on Owens, getting, a little bit of a one-up on Owens because Owens has done stuff to him and now he wants to get back at him. For Owens, it is strictly professional, as always, with Kevin Owens. He doesn't care about the person holding the title. All he cares about is the title.
Yes, I even put here, this match really has become not just about the Intercontinental Championship, but more broadly, it's insanity versus obsession. Because that's really been the one word for Kevin Owens is he's obsessed, but Dean Ambrose always claims like he's crazy,
No, that's the thing though. Ambrose didn't even say that he's crazy. Ambrose, see, this is so annoying to me. Like, everyone always talks about Ambrose like he's crazy, but I don't think he's ever actually referred to himself as crazy unless he was referring to people calling him crazy.
Well, and see, that's just it. I feel like he is addressing other people like calling him crazy, and he's just riding that wave along, even though he hasn't explicitly come out and said, I'm insane. You know, that's just kind of the vibe that you get, at least to me. So, yeah, to me it comes down to obsession versus insanity, but I love the idea, and I've said this before, I think I even said this on Raw TWitWoW, I love the idea that Kevin Owens is obsessed with regaining the Intercontinental Championship, because the way he speaks about the title, you know, you'd think, like, he can't even make it through the day knowing that he doesn't have that championship. And this is the feud that the Intercontinental Championship needed, because I feel like for so long the U.S. title has left it in the dust. But I feel like the U.S. title, even though I'm loving the Del Rio Kalisto feud, has kind of cooled down a little bit.
Mostly because of the hot potato.
Exactly. And now the Intercontinental Championship is kind of catching up a little bit because they have a story now. Yep. You know, it has a legitimate feud. This is the segment.
And not only that, but you've got a couple of sort of, you know, borderline main event guys feuding for it. Whereas with Kalisto and Del Rio, I mean, maybe you could call Del Rio that sort of almost main event guy, but even he's more mid-card. And then Kalisto has been getting built up just in order to look credible enough to beat Del Rio and win the title.
Right.
So that's, I would say, honestly, I don't even think that it's close right now. If you just look at the last, 2 or 3 months of programming, I think the Intercontinental title is more prestigious than the U.S. title right now.
I would agree. I mean,
I mean, if you look at the last year and you include all of Cena's work, you would probably want to say that the U.S. title is bigger. But, recency bias, what have you done for me lately? Intercontinental title is bigger.
Right there with you, man. I mean, this has been so well built, this program, that my closing sentiment was, we may be looking at the second edition of my match of the year list come Sunday. Yeah. I have really high expectations for this match, and we didn't even talk about the way it ended because Dean said, hey, we don't have to wait till Sunday. Let's get on right here, right now on Dean TV. And I think, him calling it Dean TV, again, just made Miz snap. He tries attacking Ambrose from behind, and he really is taking it to Dean. And then he invites Kevin Owens to come down. He does, but Kevin Owens is like, wait a minute, I don't need anybody's help. I'm Kevin fucking Owens. So then he lays out the Miz with a pop-up powerbomb, and then he tries taking it to Dean. He's just screaming in his face, DTV, DTV, this Sunday, it's the Kevin Owens show. And he tries, powerbombing him. Ambrose counters. Owens gets,
with a crossbody.
With a crossbody, and he's beating him down, tries to get him with dirty deeds. Owens, slides out. So then Ambrose picks up the lifeless, worthless carcass of the Miz, and he hits dirty deeds on that. And then I love this because it seems like a typical maneuver for babyfaces to do when they're in their last man standing match. Dean Ambrose does the countdown from 1 to 10.
Oh, that was my, you know what? I think that Kevin Owens did an amazing job here. I don't want to even sound like I'm trying to discredit him because he was great. Ambrose made this segment special to me.
He did.
Because, I mean, between the, the amusement park stuff at the beginning and then the fact that he didn't just attack The Miz and be done with it, but he took the time to count to 10 and be like, hey, man, I can put this guy down for 10. What am I going to do to you? I mean, I don't even care about this guy. It's not that I don't dislike him. I don't like him. I feel pretty neutral towards The Miz, but I hate your face. Right. What am I going to do to you knowing that I put this guy down for 10?
Dude, I know this might sound so weird given who we're talking about, but I would honestly say this segment was Dean Ambrose's coming out party as far as
what he could do on the mic. Well, I wish it would have been on Raw, though.
Yeah,
that's my thing. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. SmackDown does fairly well. Like, the viewership, I think, is, I don't know. Like, it used to be under half of Raws, and now I think it's even over 2/3 of Raws, and that's got something to do with Raw losing viewership. But I think it also has something to do with SmackDown being on USA, being more accessible, that kind of thing. But yeah, SmackDown has like over 2 million viewers a week usually.
Right.
But I just wish that because the whole thing with Raw is. They typically, if Raw is ever going to show clips from SmackDown, it's going to be beatdowns and matches. They're not going to really show promos for the most part.
Right.
And especially because this was the go-home show, right. How often do they address stuff that happened before the pay-per-view on a show that happens after the pay-per-view?
Exactly. And we all agreed. It seemed like the general consensus among wrestling fans was that Raw, this past Monday was pretty lackluster, save for a few segments. I feel like a segment like this would have definitely elevated Raw.
It would
for
have.
a lot of people.
For sure, yeah. I mean, to me, this was the kind of segment that would have really bought sort of legitimacy as far as this feud goes. Like, if this segment would have happened on Raw, it would have made this feud feel a lot more special than it did. And it happened on SmackDown, but I mean, the fact that it happened alone still helps, but the fact that it happened on SmackDown kind of does cheapen it a little bit.
I can totally see where you're coming from. That said, though, they did a masterful job here, and I am so ready for this last man standing match.
Yeah.
And Dean Ambrose is just a testament to what a really over babyface looks like.
I think this last man standing match, and here's the thing, too, if you think about it, both of the last 2 years, this is the third year running now, potentially, we've had a match of the year contender, if not winner, as far as the world of WWE goes in our eyes, at the Royal Rumble that wasn't the Royal Rumble match. 2014, it was Wyatt Bryan. 2015, it was the Triple Threat. I think this might be that match this year.
I agree with you completely. I even have here, we may just be looking at the second addition to my list of match of the year because the build's been great.
What was the first?
The first, yeah, Okada Tanahashi, Wrestle Kingdom 10.
So you're not going to even include Shibata and Ishii on that?
I was tempted. I may do it when I do a reevaluation close.
Is that just kind of one of those things where, like, if it wasn't the best match on the show, how can I make it a match of the year?
Exactly.
I see. Yeah, I get you.
But, I mean, the people involved, I mean, the workers are of the utmost quality, involved, and just everything about this was fantastic.
Yeah.
With that said, is there anything else you want to say about it before we move on?
Up next, we had Bray Wyatt saying, "Smackdown, we're here," and then blowing his little lantern out. We get the entrance, and then as the Wyatt family is making their entrance, we get a recap of the Wyatts taking out, I'm pretty sure they just showed the Wyatts taking out Brock on Raw. They didn't show the part where they super kicked and destroyed Roman as well.
Right.
Interesting editing choice there, Raw, or WWE rather.
Yeah, really. I just have here, this is a solid matchup that really actually saw Ryback, holding his own.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Ryback. This was the match, Bray Wyatt versus Ryback.
Yeah, and Ryback really, he held his own. He looked strong and confident in there, but it really came down to the numbers game.
Yep.
And, Wyatt family started interfering. Bray Wyatt capitalized, got Sister Abigail, and won the match. Didn't really seem like it was that long of a match, and it really put over the fact that the Wyatt family are the real threat here, with Bray Wyatt guiding them. After the matchup, he says, we may look like flesh and blood, but we're really war, pestilence, famine, etc. And they're going to slaughter everyone the way they slaughtered Lesnar on Monday. And the apocalypse is here. And I freaking loved it. I love the energy. I love just the macabre feel, like when these guys come out, like destruction is going to ensue. And I think I either put here or at the ending segment, it only took a week of genuine effort really focusing on the Wyatts for me to get emotionally invested again, because we've had these conversations before.
Dude, it has completely diluted my thinking when it comes to the Rumble match.
Yeah, I know, right? Because I thought I had the Final Four, all carved out. Now I don't even know anymore.
Well, I don't even know about the Final Four. I'm just saying, I thought Brock is going to win, and if he doesn't, it's going to be, there are 3 potential winners, and that's it. It's either Roman, Brock, or Triple H. But now, I am not going to just ignore the build that they're giving the Wyatts and be like, red herring.
Yeah, in fact, something interesting, at least, that I noted happened later, and I'll be interested to talk about that with you, because I thought that was interesting, something that they let happen in the closing segment. But I love the build that they are giving these guys, and I don't want to get too excited, because they've done this so many times with the Wyatt family, build them up a little bit, and then they cool off.
Exactly.
But, maybe, I always say, I'd want more for Bray Wyatt. The guy seems to be doing pretty well for me. He gets to work with the likes of Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, all these guys, and, doing stuff like this. It could be worse. 3
WrestleMania matches, if we're right, are going to have been against John Cena, The Undertaker, and Brock Lesnar. Even if he's lost all 3 of them, it's still pretty freaking impressive.
That's what you call perspective, people, and I really need to start trying to keep
telling you, man, it's crazy. He's literally the contemporary Jake the Snake.
Yeah, just absolutely nuts.
Oh, and that's another thing. I actually saw this on Reddit. This is only Bray Wyatt's second ever televised championship opportunity.
What? Yeah, because the first was Money in the Bank, wasn't it?
Yes.
In, like 2014 or something?
Yep.
Yeah, crazy, dude.
This is only the second time he's ever competed for a world title. The first was, Money in the Bank when the title was on the line.
I'll tell you, his booking may be frustrating at times, but on the whole, it's been really fascinating. Look at the trajectory of his career.
Yeah, that's a great word for it, fascinating, because I definitely wouldn't call it good. There's a lot of mistakes that have been made that I think that even if Vince could look back in hindsight and be like, if you could go back and change that, would you? I think you would probably say yes to a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And yet, look at, again, we just ran down even the WrestleManias alone who this guy has worked with. I mean, So I can't really say I feel too bad for him when you're working with guys like that on a WrestleMania card, when guys are still just wishing to be on the other side of the curtain. Regardless, yeah.
The thing, though, is, like, if you're a new fan or even just a casual fan, like, there are a lot of people that only watch WrestleMania and they don't keep up with the product much, if at all, otherwise. You basically see Bray Wyatt as a jobber to the stars at this point.
Right.
Because he's already lost to Cena. He's already lost to Taker. He's probably going to lose to Brock this year. If people only watch WrestleMania, and there are a lot of people that do that. I did that from 2007 to 2009, so I can't even, try and claim that I've never done that before. But if you do, that's one of those things where Bray Wyatt does not look that good to you. I mean, he's obviously a great promo, and he's great in the ring, and he put on, both of those two matches against Taker and Cena were solid, but the fact that he is this perpetual loser at WrestleMania is a bit of a concern. It would be insane if he would actually beat Brock.
Yeah, reverse Undertaker. Bray Wyatt going to be 0-3, because, I don't see him beating Brock. But, man, like, you want to talk about undoing most of the damage of his booking? You have him beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, of all places.
I didn't think that that's where you were going with it, but I do agree with you that would do it. But to me, I think one of the big reasons why the WWE does book him the way that they do is it's kind of the same thing that they do with Brock. Like, Brock can afford to eat a loss because look at him. He's Brock freaking Lesnar. Well, Bray Wyatt can afford a few losses because not necessarily look at him, but look at what he's got going for him.
Right.
Like, if this guy goes a month without winning, he can just say, oh, yeah, I allowed those people to beat me because I needed to go, freed to my next form or something like that. That's the thing. Like, Bray Wyatt can talk his way out of losing.
Yeah, and that's been one quality that I think has really kept him in the mix for as long as he has been. Like, he really does have a gift of doing that. So we'll see how he performs along with the family at the Rumble this Sunday. With that said, is there anything else you want to say about this match?
Up next, we had Stardust versus Titus O'Neil. Not really a whole lot to say about this. Stardust is kind of a jobber at this point, sadly. I really wish that he would be something, somebody give him some credibility, give him some 10, 15-minute matches, something. But no, he's putting Titus over, man. And Titus, he got it right this time. I told you he was getting it right a lot more recently. He hit the middle rope, clash of the Titus, and then he leaned forward to get the pin.
Yeah, I have here, this is the third straight time Titus has beaten Stardust. I don't have any notion of it happening. Don't make that mistake. But I would still love if the story would be when Stardust finally goes back to Cody Rhodes, or maybe it just becomes something else entirely, then he's able to beat Titus, because he just can't beat him while he's Stardust.
Or they'll just completely forget that this feud ever happened. And
that's what they're already doing. You can tell they're already going to do it. I think Titus is going to move on to other things, but it does seem interesting to me. This
feels to me almost like the Barrett R-Truth of the summer.
Yeah.
It feels like that, but the winter version of it, because you have one guy who you think, oh, this guy, he's got so much talent and so much potential. He can do so much. And WWE's finally giving him television time, but all he does is lose.
Right. I did make a note here, though. It does seem like Titus is winning a lot more lately on TV, so it seems like he's getting some kind of a mini push. And his screen promo about the Rumble, I didn't think was bad. I felt like Titus played to his strengths, relating the Royal Rumble and his presence in it back to his days as a Florida Gator on the line of scrimmage. I like that. He talked about what he knew, and he made it work. So I do think Titus is getting some kind of a mini push. I don't think it's going to translate into anything big, but, just something worth noting because he does seem to be winning a little bit more lately. But like you said, nothing more to really say than that. We can move on.
Yeah. So up next, we had a Renee Young interview with Kalisto, and Kalisto is kind of beating a dead horse at this point. He brings up the Mexican greats, he brings up Mil Máscaras, he brings up Rey Mysterio. The thing is, though, this is Smackdown, so every name that he lists off, he brings up Eddie Guerrero as well. Every name that he lists off gets a massive reaction because, piped in cheers. But then he cuts a promo about how he's been David all his life and he's used to fighting Goliaths and, he's used to fighting guys that are bigger and stronger than him. And then Del Rio shows up. And then the other 3 members of the League of Nations show up, and we get the beatdown of a lifetime.
They bully the shit out of him. I will say this, though, just being sincere for a second and dialing it back. I didn't mind the promo so much. You know what I did take issue with, though? He had a line in here that really rubbed me the wrong way. He said, Del Rio comes, from a great line of Latino wrestlers, and to your point, Ashley, he does name drop Mil Máscaras, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, says, in Mexico, he's a big name, and he said he's somebody to look up to.
Yeah, I really did, the reason that I didn't bring that up is because I wasn't even sure if I heard it right, and I didn't want to misquote him.
I went back and listened to it again just to make sure I got it absolutely right, and yeah, he said he's somebody to look up to, and I have in my notes, I like that Kalisto as a babyface, because we've talked about promos 101, all right? We've talked about how a promo should be. I like that he elevates Del Rio, the performer, because when Kalisto beats him, if he beats him this Sunday, which I'm not making any prediction here or there, it's a big deal because you just built up the guy, and it's Alberto Del Rio, multi-time world champion, this, that, and the other.
And apparently somebody worth looking up to.
And see, that's where I took umbrage, because I said it's one thing to elevate the performer, it's another thing to elevate the person, and you've got to make the distinction. You elevated Del Rio, the performer, but you also elevated the person who only has the U.S. title that you should be coveting with everything of your being because he cheated.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be saying, oh, he's somebody to look up to. He cheated to beat you, dude. Don't be saying that. So, no, I've been liking Kalisto lately, and, I've had his back a lot on these promos, but that was something, I couldn't turn a blind eye.
You know what? That's one thing that I guess we can be happy about, it only being on SmackDown and not being on Raw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel if that would have been a Raw, he might have even gotten in trouble for it.
And I think this is why I felt less bad when he was getting bullied. This is the man you said to look up to, and now he's just bullying the shit out of you. So that's what you get for being weak and pathetic. Stand up for yourself next time, you sack of crap.
Oh, my God.
I loved it, too, because he's like, hey, leave me alone. Stop it. Shut up, nerd. Know your place.
Kalisto is not a nerd, okay?
Yeah, well, he's a freaking small fry. Maybe grow 6 inches next time, and then fucking take people.
He is the same size as Mysterio, and Mysterio had a little bit of a winning streak against Del Rio, did he not?
Well, yeah, he did. So, but I could be really mean-spirited about that, too, but I'm going to pass.
No, go ahead. You got to get it out.
No, I was going to say he had a losing streak against his knees, though, too. Freaking injuries have his freaking number. So,
Look, man, the stem cell treatment obviously worked. He hasn't been injured since then.
Yeah, because we should be funding it completely, but this isn't a political podcast.
Why are we not funding this?
This is a wrestling podcast, damn it. And yeah, Kalisto just hey, leave me alone, stop it. I'm glad he got bro kicked in the face.
Did he?
No, yeah, he did. Sheamus bro kicked him to end it. And then they're like, let's
take care. I thought
he
was on the ground the whole time. I didn't know he stood up to get bro kicked.
No, they held him up. They restrained him. And then Sheamus was like, let's do the same to Reigns. But then...
Yeah, Sheamus was just like, great, now let's go get bro kicked.
I love how they used Kalisto to pump themselves up.
Yeah.
We beat the shit out of this guy. Let's go beat the shit out of this other guy. Yeah. So good. So yeah, in all sincerity, obviously I have to have my sadistic moment of the week, and this was it.
Well, there you go. You got it out of your system.
Oh, I feel so much better. So yeah, I like this promo, but yeah, that was just so perplexing to me, dude, that he's like, Del Rio is somebody to look up to. He's the heel, and he cheated to beat you. No mas. That's not gonna work.
You're a babyface, but that doesn't mean you need to talk good about everyone.
Yeah, maybe that's what Del Rio was really trying to teach him. Mind your words, or else this happens. And now he ate
Del Rio was just trying to teach him a lesson on, really accepting that there are just some people in the world that are shitty.
Exactly, like, hey, Kalisto, I appreciate you saying that people should look up to me, but you're still a mosquito, and I'm about to denigrate your person right now. And then
I hope you're right. I hope people do look up to me, because then everyone will want to kick the shit out of you.
I really thought Del Rio was going to go the low route and just be like, well, Kalisto, it's funny that you say that people should look up to me, because you certainly have to. And then they about it.
Because Del Rio's like a foot taller than me.
Exactly. So,
Not
anyway.
even exaggerating. I think Del Rio's 6'5" and Kalisto's 5'6", so 11 inches.
Right. So before I make myself out to be even more of a reprehensible human being, though I don't even know how that's conceivable at this point, let's move on.
Move on to what? The main event where Roman Reigns gets gets himself a disqualification victory over the League of Nations because they try quadruple teaming him and it still isn't enough.
Dude, you know what I put here? And it's so funny, because, like, originally this was going to be a nitpick of mine, but then I'm like, no, nobody cares. It doesn't matter. Like, because I was going to put here, the League of Nations are absolutely pathetic. This is a direct quote from my notes. You just got done bullying Kalisto. Like, you couldn't even handle Roman Reigns because he's Roman fucking Reigns. Like, they had to get themselves disqualified because they thought to themselves, wait a minute, I thought 4 was greater than 1, but he actually has the advantage. Quick, dog pile him. Like, what? These guys, considering who's in it.
Here's the thing, though. I will say they got the upper hand when it was just Roman, but then the Usos came out, and they got the upper hand on the Usos, but then the Usos were effective enough cannon fodder that it allowed Roman to power up and get the upper hand again.
It's like, yeah, all of my nepotism to this hand, and then he just knocks them out, and then just
Oh my god.
You know, it's like, I want to like the League of Nations because the people involved, I do think in some way, shape, or form, are entertaining, performers and stuff like that. And especially, I know we've talked about Sheamus' downgrade, and don't get me wrong, I have accepted it, but it is still kind of mind-boggling. The guy just got done a WWE World Heavyweight Championship reign, and he has to, like, throw this match out, because it's like, guys, Roman's getting the upper hand, abort, and then they just all kind of swarm him and try and get the job done. Wyatt family then comes out. Now, this is where I wanted to make my personal observation, because, like you said, Ashton, it was a watered-down version of Raw, so you can anticipate, Roman Reigns got laid out. But there was a moment here that kind of made my eyes light up, and I'm like, wow, because even though commentary didn't make note of it, I did, because again, like you, there are things I look, too much into at times here.
Oh boy.
Braun Strowman threw Roman Reigns over the top rope. So
That is true. True.
By all accounts, if that was the Rumble, Braun Strowman would have eliminated Roman Reigns by himself.
I have actually, dude, here's the crazy thing. I don't know if you pay any attention to Vegas betting odds. Obviously, the top two most, the top two lowest odds, meaning the people that are most likely to win according to Vegas, are Lesnar and Roman. Third is Triple H, which is strange because he's not even announced for the Rumble yet. But fourth is Braun freaking Strowman.
And I think it's because of moments like this. Like, I saw that, and I even put here, I love that Strowman is booked like the equalizer of the family, because if you notice, Reigns was able to readily handle Harper and Rowan.
Yeah.
But Strowman consistently makes the difference. And the idea
Here's my thing, though, John. I will say this. To me, the one thing that is worth mentioning regarding Strowman, he is immortal as far as knocking him off his feet. But that doesn't mean you can't knock him over the top rope, because that's actually, in the experiences that we've had seeing him in ring brawls, that's the only way to beat him in the ring is to throw him over the top rope, because we've already seen multiple people, whether it's Cena or Taker or Kane, whoever, do the clothesline over the top rope, and he lands on his feet, which would be an elimination in the Rumble.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Completely. It's just in this context, seeing him just, throttle Roman Reigns and throw him over the top rope, I'm awesome. Like, that's freaking awesome, because, yes, it's only throwing him over the top rope, but put it in the context of the Rumble, and the guy that everybody's just, like, heaving and hawing about, like, okay, we gotta get through this. Strowman just took care of handily by himself. Like, I love that booking, man. Strowman looks so legit. I don't expect him to break any kind of records or anything like that. I completely agree with you. I think, he'll start piling up somebody's, but right when he's really cooking, maybe people will gang up on him, or maybe even Roman by himself. You watch. Roman by himself will get it back, and
that'll be the revenge. Like, how dare you throw me over the top rope? Here's my revenge.
But I'm so glad they gave Strowman that moment, and especially because, again, who's orchestrating him, who's directing him? Bray Wyatt. So that makes him look even better. Because, like, my weapon is greater than your Superman punch, your spear, everything that you're bringing to the table. So I really like that.
I really wish we would have seen, like a Superman punch, no sold by Strowman. Or, even better, would be like a spear where Roman hits the spear, Strowman stays standing, though, and Roman just falls to the ground face first.
Yeah.
Either one of those things I want to see. And even though we didn't see it on SmackDown, it's still something, like, it's on my list of things that I need to see. Okay, I have no idea what's going on with the internet right now, John.
Because I don't think that's how it was set up.
Okay, hang on a second, John. We're having some technical difficulties here. You just had like a solid 5 to 10 seconds of robot voice, and I didn't understand anything. So go back to the last thing that I said and repeat yourself, because I didn't understand any of that, and that means that our viewers didn't either.
I said I completely agree with what you were saying about how cool that would have been for Strowman to no-sell. Okay. I would have liked the idea. I don't know if that's how it was initially set up, but if Roman Reigns went for the Superman punch and then Strowman kind of throttled him by the throat that way and then threw him over the top rope, or if, like, Roman Reigns would have gone for the powerbomb, or not the powerbomb, the spear, but Strowman would have caught him in a powerbomb position and vaulted him over the ropes that way. Just a real way to showcase his power and his dominance, but I love that they gave him this. So that's what I thought really stood out to me. And I enjoyed the closing segment, so that's really all I got to say about that.
Okay, that's better. Yeah, we had some really bad robot voice going on there. I'm not sure what was going on with the internet. But let's kind of finish things out here, just to close things out. I know we already finished talking about the main event, so if you want to move on, we can have our next segment.
High spots and low shots. I was really torn on my low shot this week, but I ultimately decided to go the League of Nations. You guys are pitiful. Yeah, you gang up on Kalisto, which, don't get me wrong, was hilarious, and he absolutely deserved to know his place. But you couldn't even handle Roman Reigns with the sizable numbers advantage, and you threw the match out on your own accord, which didn't even amount to anything anyway. So, yeah, League of Nations is my low shot.
I can dig that. I completely see where you're coming from. My low shot is Kalisto, though, because that's why, right there.
I'm sorry.
Because I can't even mention his name without John getting this giddy, like, Beavis and Butthead giggle.
Dreams don't come true, Kalisto.
Well, and let's be real, your low shot was the League of Nations. The only positive moment they had of the night was beating the shit out of Kalisto.
It really was.
Oh my god.
Keeping up with that, with this whole faction theme, my high spot again is the Wyatt family. Because I don't know if I picked them on Raw or if you did, but, again, they stand tall. Bray beat Ryback, and then the faction as a whole, really dominated the closing segment again. Strowman even threw Roman Reigns, the champion, over the top rope. So if you talk about one versus all, Reigns better be concerned about one versus Strowman first, because he couldn't even win that fight. So, yeah, the Wyatt family did great tonight. They're my high spot.
Nice. My high spot, Dean Ambrose. Amazing segment tonight. I would give my honorary high spot to Kevin Owens if I was allowed to do that. So let's go ahead and with that. But Ambrose was just incredible. The amusement park comparison with the promo, and then of course the 10 count after nailing Miz with Dirty Deeds. And yes, people, an elephant in the room. We do know that Owens hit the pop-up powerbomb on Miz before the Dirty Deeds, so it wasn't just the Dirty Deeds that kept Miz down for the 10 count. But I like giving credit to Dean Ambrose, and he likes taking credit. So let's just allow this transaction to happen.
Yeah, you're not going to get any contentions from me. Dean Ambrose had a stellar night tonight. I would say a career night tonight, really showing his capabilities on the microphone as a babyface. I freaking loved it. It was the segment I was waiting for this feud, and Ambrose really carried it on his back. Of course, Kevin Owens assisted like only he can because he's a zoo man himself. He's not really into amusement parks, but both these guys did great. I loved it.
Absolutely. So let's, what do you think, John? We have one segment left. Are you ready for this?
We do. 30-second hot seat. And baby, I'm about to put this down worse than the League of Nations put Kalisto down. What do you got for me this week?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to make any 30-second hot seat that's actually related to the WWE because everything that we would talk about is the Royal Rumble, and we're talking about the Royal Rumble on Saturday, previewing predictions. So, topical, baby. Lucha Underground Season 2 starts next week. What do you think the first ever match and the first ever, well, not ever, the first match and the first main event of Season 2 are going to be?
Oh, what?
Yeah! Getting into it already.
All right. First match, first main event. I'm guessing my time starts.
Yeah, I was just going to say, give me, I got to set it up. Got to give you your 30 seconds. Your time starts now.
Okay, I'm going to say, you know what, first matchup, I'm going to be a little weird. I'm going to say my first matchup is going to be Marty the Moth versus Aerostar. First main event is going to be, jeez, what's it going to be? You know what, I'm going to say Prince Puma versus King Cuerno. Yeah, Prince Puma versus King Cuerno is going to be the first main event, and they're going to kill it like only they can. So that's my first main event.
I can dig that. You only took like 26, 27 seconds, so you fit it in. Just to answer my own question, as far as first match goes, I'm going to say Superfly versus Pentagon. And for my first main event, I think Puma Muertes for the return match is going to happen.
Oh, nice. Dude, so you're thinking straight away they're going to get that return match out of the way.
Nice.
Oh,
no, you know what? Now that I think about it, no, because Cueto wants a week to promote his championship matches. So I'm going to just go a notch below that. And I'm going to say Trios Championships, Disciples of Death versus, Team Havoc.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, though? I wouldn't be surprised if you were right about the World Title match, only because Cueto isn't here. I know Cueto's rules, but he's not ruling the rules right now.
Isn't he? We don't know. Katrina being the proprietor might have been a screenshot or a photo taken halfway into the tapings. We don't know that.
Yeah, that could be. We don't know the placement, in terms of the overall storyline.
It's probably safe to assume Cueto won't be around for the first few episodes. But, that being said, then are the titles going to be defended at all? Maybe I'm talking out my ass because maybe Katrina being in charge, she won't allow her guys to defend the titles because there's no point in risking them losing them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, only time will tell. But if Cueto isn't going to be on for the first few episodes, it's going to be with a heavy heart that we endure his absence, but we'll be ringing the bell deep inside. So, yeah, I can't wait. Just a little bit further now, the final stretch before Lucha Underground Season 2. But with that said, before I go on a whole other tangent, Ash, is there anything else you want to say about the Smackdown Go Home show?
The Smackdown Go Home show was a really, really solid show. Like I said earlier, take the, hour and 45 minutes of Smackdown without its finish, the main event, and then take the women's segment on Raw and the closing segment on Raw and just kind of jam it all together and you get a solid 2.5 hours of content.
Completely agree with you. With that said, guys, this has been Smackdown. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Remember, our new policy for SmackDown reviews is the question down below is the 30-second hot seat. So what do you think is going to be the opening contest and the main event contest for the first episode, the season premiere for Season 2 of Lucha Underground? Be sure to talk to us.
And since our viewers don't have to worry about spoiling a preview predictions video, they can tell us who they think is going to win the Royal Rumble.
There you go. Give us the breakdown, guys. I mean, who do you think is going to come away victorious in each of the bouts, including the 30-man Royal Rumble matchup? Be sure to take the conversation over to Pweetoff, an amazing pro wrestling group on Facebook. Around this time, we always do a big predictions thread with all of our Pweetoff championships on the line, so it's a hell of a lot of fun. You might want to get in on that, but I understand you don't want to do big groups. Ashton's created a TWitWoW subreddit where you will find all of our TWitWoW content, and you have the ability to create threads of your own on all things related to pro wrestling. Be sure to buy the Because He's a Father, damn it, t-shirt on Teespring. You know Kevin Owens is just killing it right now. He had a stellar night tonight, and I know you want to show your love in the best way possible. It's a fantastic shirt. And with that said, guys, we will see you again for Royal Rumble preview and predictions. You know, preview and predictions with me and my co-owner and commentator here. Always great discussions, always great viewpoints, always entertaining. Be sure to get in on that. And then Sunday, Royal Rumble live reactions. Given some of our prior Royal Rumble live reactions, who knows what's going to make us pop and come out of our seat. I'm very much looking forward to it, especially with some of the things that have been teased. You're not going to want to miss how we're going to finish out the week. Hey, yeah, AJ freaking Styles. You know, how big is that pop going to be, people? So, yeah, you're not going to want to miss anything we put out this weekend. And until then, tune in and peace out.